and thank you for coming tonight to our final concert of the semester and of the year of the Brockport Concert Band here. We're going to grab a tuning note and we're going to get started right away. All right, so I know we don't have a program here tonight, so I'll be announcing everything from the stage. So if you're taking notes, take notes. That one was Sailing with Whales by a composer who's actually very near to us. Galante was born in Buffalo, and he actually did his undergraduate degree at SUNY Buffalo, so we're all in good company here. He went on to do degrees in composition and film orchestration. Does anybody have any clue what film orchestration is? So a composer, let's say, I don't know, one of my favorites, Hans Zimmer, did like Pirates of the Caribbean and all that kind of stuff. They kind of come up with sketches of what they think the music should be, and then they have other people help flesh it out for all of the different instruments that are gonna play. So this guy has worked on, this Galante guy from Buffalo, he's worked on The Avengers Age of Ultron. He's worked on Alvin and the Chipmunks, which I thought was pretty cool. The Fantastic Four, Logan, and a few other movies that you would probably recognize. So that is the guy who wrote this song right here, and he had a little something to say about sailing with whales. There we go, I'm gonna read it straight from him. So, Sailing with Whales accompanies the men and women who leave port and set out to sea on a crisp morning to search for the majestic orca whale. The main theme, stated by the trombones, follows them on their journey with these apex predators that no other animal would dare to prey on. This theme encompasses the thrilling search, and once found, the subsequent trek with the whales in their natural habitat. The noble and majestic second theme captures a quieter time on the ocean as these highly social whales travel in pods to calmer waters as the sun begins to set. I know, you probably don't even remember the song at this point. The next day, as we come to the end of the song, as the waves swell and the sailors try to keep up with the whales, the pace of the music accelerates to embody the speed of these ocean giants as they begin to move faster and faster. After a brief recapitulation of the main thematic material, the piece comes to a riveting rhythmic conclusion, encapsulating the experience of sailing with whales. So that's what you just heard us play, and the next one we're going to play is called Orbital. Orbital is by a composer with the last name of Sims, and he was born and raised in Seattle, Washington. He is now an educator in the Maryland area. Orbital, he says, can be about electrons, about planets, or anything within the limits of your imagination. The music that you're about to hear is going to be spiraling. It's going to be constantly changing meter. It has a lot of very intricate rhythms. Sometimes this music is very busy, and sometimes it's very spacey and void. If you imagine orbits and whatever that may mean to you, see if you can hear some of what the composer was going for in this song, Orbital. All right, this next piece is, I don't know, might be one of my favorites on this concert, although with only 4 pieces and all of them being pretty terrific, it's hard to call a favorite, but this one's pretty neat, I think. This one is by a composer by the name of Eric Whitacre, and if anyone in here has played in band or sung in choir, then chances are you've probably done something by Eric Whitacre, and you'll know that his pieces are just simply gorgeous. Every time you see an Eric Whitacre piece in front of you, you know you're in for a treat. So now I'm telling you, if you don't know Eric Whitacre, you're in for a treat. As you've noticed, our theme tonight is of sea and sky. So we're kind of going back and forth between the sea and the sky. And I was looking for a piece that would be slower, because so far everything's been quite fast, and something that would also be either sea or sky, but preferably sky since I had a lot of sea. And then I found Goodnight Moon. And many of you will know that story and that book that may have been read to you, or maybe you read to someone in your life, was set to music by Eric Whitacre. He is, by the way, a Grammy award-winning composer, and let me just read to you again what he has said about composing this piece, if I can open it up. He said, "Over the past few years, I must have read Goodnight Moon to my son 1,000 times, maybe more. Somewhere around reading number 500, I began hearing little musical fragments as I read, and over time, those fragments began to blossom into a simple, sweet lullaby. I knew it was a long shot, but I had my manager, Claire Long, contact HarperCollins to see if they would allow me to use the text to be set to music. You have to get permission for these kind of things. To my surprise and delight, they agreed, the first time they had ever allowed Goodnight Moon to be used in such a way. I composed the piece relatively quickly, originally setting the text for harp, string orchestra, and my son's mother singing the soprano part. I later arranged Goodnight Moon for soprano, alto, tenor, bass, choir, and piano. But more recently, my dear friend, I'm not going to try to pronounce that name, arranged the piece for wind ensemble and soloist, the one you're going to hear tonight. The melody of Goodnight Moon will forever make me think of those quiet nights with my son Ash reading him to sleep. So we are going to do this, and in order to do this, we need a little bit of a help. So if I could get the stand brought out at this time. We have a guest soloist with us tonight. The guest is going to sing the text, so you are going to actually get to hear the story. And our soloist for tonight comes to us from Washington State. She's been living here in Rochester now for a number of years. She has a Master of Music in Vocal Performance from the Eastman School of Music, and she performs all around the area and actually up and down the East Coast here. So please help me in welcoming Shaya Greathouse to the stage. All right, well, we are small but mighty, I hope you will agree. And playing a concert like this actually gets very tiring for our faces. So this is the last song for the evening, which I know comes too soon. We want to keep hearing these students play because they sound so tremendous. Let's give them another hand. I want to let you know before we end about a couple more concerts coming up before the end of the semester. We have orchestra and voice, and that will be on May 6th at 7:30 right here in this theater. We have the guitar ensemble on May 8th at 7:30, but in 120, room 120, which is in the middle of this building. And then the Saturday following, which I believe is the 11th, but I might be misspeaking, but that Saturday following is when the chorus is, and I guess I neglected to figure out where they were. Does anyone know? No one knows. Watch for more information about where the choir concert is on that last Saturday of the semester. Before I tell you about our last song, there are some very special people in this group that I want to recognize, people that have been with us for the last few years now and who after tonight are leaving us, which for me is very sad, but for them is, after the sadness of leaving concert band, very happy because they're graduating. So if we could recognize, and if you guys could stand up when your name is called and stay standing and we can give them a hand. Ryan, Gabrielle, Ruth, Austin, Aiden, and Anna. Congratulations to all of you. You can sit down now. We wish you all the best in your further endeavors, and please come back and visit. So our last piece, I know I just turned my back to you, which is rule number 1, never do, is by a fellow with the last name Standridge, who was born and raised in Little Rock. So I'm trying to give you a little bit of an idea where everybody came from. And we are going to do Homeward Shores, and this song is where kind of the theme for tonight came from, because Homeward Shores was composed about the Great Lakes. So it seemed very fitting that we, right here on one of the Great Lakes, should perform it. So here is Standridge's notes about Homeward Shores. He says, "I travel a lot, like a lot, and I enjoy it very much. Having said that, there is nothing quite like coming home. After days on the road, it is always a joy to step through my front door and be greeted by my husband, my pets, and all of my comforts." In 2022, I was commissioned to write a work for the Peninsula Symphonic Band of Door County, Wisconsin, in honor of their 30th anniversary. Their conductor had suggested that I tie the piece into the local lighthouses. I thought this was a marvelous idea, and it fits wonderfully with my own feelings about coming home. Homeward Shores begins at dawn, listen for that, with a group of fishermen setting out into the Great Lakes. The adventure of traveling the waves is depicted in a more turbulent section, after which a jaunty jig finds the crew laughing, singing, and buoyed each other's spirits until finally, guided by the lighthouse, they find their way home to their loved ones' homes and hearths. Homeward Shores is concerned about finding your way home, and we hope that you enjoy this tonight. Thank you very much for coming to this concert, and please check out what's coming the rest of the semester. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.